Video 40. May 23, 2011. Mythi. Some friends are wondering why is there so much movement in the FEMA camps, and why the space shuttle program also has ended. Is there anything imminent to happen? Friends, your government is preparing for the end of the agenda. Stay tuned in the events. Try not to fall into the pitfalls of misinformation. Your spacecraft program was turned off for obvious reasons. Everything there is going to be lost, they know, and will not invest any more because it would have no meaning. This last mission was to install radiation detectors, only to monitor events until the last minute. See, your satellite network can shut down, and the only way you friends can keep in touch will be through what you call amateur radio. These old devices, which use your atmosphere as means of signal propagation, will be the only viable form of communication. If you can get organized this way, it will be a good start in preparing to not be totally isolated and at the mercy of misleading information from your local government. Mythi. Many friends are asking about Elenin. What is it really? Is it an icy comet? What size? Why has its route been changed these past few days? Why is it still not visible? Well, let's try to clarify your ideas. First of all, Nibiru that is approaching is not a comet. It's a planet that holds atomic internal activity, emitting energy particles like a weak sun. But the surface is cold, around -40 degrees. It is actually a small dwarf star. It is not and never was an icy comet. The iron core of the old moon of Jupiter that I mentioned, you gave it another name, something like Honda. Editor's note, this is Elenin. This caused confusion with this matter of the comet. You give many names for the same thing, and it's a bit confusing. The size of this dwarf star, Nibiru, counting with its atmosphere of gases, is approximate 78.000 kilometers. Its route is being monitored by the Community Galactica, trying to offset its influences on the planets in your solar system. In the possible route of it, we do not know exactly what they are doing. It is not visible because it emits no heat and no light. So it is hard to see with optical telescopes and even with weak infrared telescopes. It will be clearly visible when illuminated by your sun within approximate 3 months. Geo21 and other friends ask, Mythi, do you know anything about the places on Earth that are going to have serious problems when planet Nibiru passes? For example, what do you know about Europe, Americas, Asia, or anywhere else in the rest of the planet? Geo, it is hard to predict exactly what will happen to the continent. Since the end of the Community Galactica arrangements were not disclosed to us. By our calculations, you may have very high tides, with up to 300 meters high in some places. If that dwarf star follows the course schedule, depending on the altitude relative to sea level, groups may be safe. This elevation should be at least twice that, or 600 meters. These higher grounds will be like islands during this period. The winds will also be very strong, which requires a shelter that supports at least gusts up to 250 km/h. Ron asks, after the Community Galactica officially approves of contact with Earth, will it be possible to meet you in person? I would like to thank you in person for helping us to understand what is happening with the Earth and its surroundings. Ron, it is going to be a great pleasure for us. Who knows? We may be combining some meetings in your countries after all this happening. We might finally bring together our newest friends for a confraternity. Mythi, what is the name of your home planet? How do you call it? My planet is called Mantic in the 7th orbit. We have 3 other colonies, one in the 5th orbit called Mantica, another in the 6th orbit called Sitka, and another in the 8th orbit called Kotman. All are very nice. Mantic, my planet, is the cultural center, central research labs, and is primarily residential. Mantica has a great richness of soil and an abundant food production. Sitka is where almost all our factories were transferred, and almost everything we need is produced there. Kotman is almost entirely covered with oceans, lakes, and forests. An ideal place for raising fish and enjoying the native wildlife, a great place to vacation. Kadima asks, you said that the government will use natural events in order to kill off a large portion of the population. If a list does exist, then I would think that the definition of disposable humans would be older humans, diseased humans, humans with any health issues, and humans that have a low IQ. Right? Kadima, when I talk about your government, I mean all governments are directly linked to your dominant elites. Of course they will eliminate the poor first. The sick will die easily without resources for their problems. According to what we perceive that your governments want, a large part of hundreds of ethnicities on the planet would be reduced to a maximum of 20. What will be chosen to stay here will be only the ones they consider superior. That's what your elite plans, but it does not mean it will happen because they are being closely observed. Kadima asks, why would the government feel the need to commit genocide if the government has knowledge about the approaching Planet X and the pole shift happening in our near future? The government must be well aware that only a 10% survival rate is expected, right? Kadima, natural action is random. They want to make sure the composition of the final race of the planet is what they define. They want to help nature to do the job of cleanup. Large flocks of sheep that they created to sustain them until this point are completely disposable. From this point, they want a world totally under control, without any hindrance in the beginning of galactic relationship. This is what they want, not what they will have. This we can assure you. Mythi, Dave here from Timmins, Ontario. What is most important for us to do right now, at this point as a human race? Should we rebel against our monetary values and try to change our corrupt governments? Should I quit my job and live on higher ground? I have always felt more at home in the forest and living of the land instead of working in a dead-end job for very little money. I know in the end the choice is mine, but what is your opinion? Dave, at the point where things are, to rebel against your government, it will not solve anything now. What has been damaged has no time for repair. You must lead your life normally. When you start to make sure about the succession of events, your jobs soon cease to exist because the planet will stop, commercially speaking. Your economy will be stopped for lack of communications, energy, banking, etc. When you start feeling any of these symptoms, check with your family for a place far from great urban centers. Try to isolate yourselves in more secure locations. Try creating a chance for survival, have a plan ready, outline a script, a previously chosen location. And while nothing happens, follow your normal life, trying not to interfere or alarm those who live around you. Do not be fooled by doctrines imposed, only follow your conscience. Robin asks, Mythi, do you have any known knowledge of any breed of humanoid that has the capability to fly in the atmosphere? Or possess some superhuman strength? Robin, there are lighter humanoid beings that after the 6th level of frequency, levitate without any problem. They do not have to walk if they don't want to. They have advanced mental powers which may counteract the magnetic force of the planet with an aura field neutralizer. This field is driven by the mind and works as a normal sense since they are born. They literally can fly. We in the 5th level, we can interact with objects in addition to telepathy but are not yet born with the characteristic of unconditional control of our biofield. Goodman asks, you said that you process fish to protein. I am really surprised that a civilization that much more advanced than ours still processes animals for food. Can you comment on that, please? See, Goodman, all of us humanoids, we need certain elements for nutrition. Fish are a form of animal that can be created and developed to such an amendment. There is no kind of problem in this kind of consumption. Since consumption is one that maintains the natural balance of that fish species with their environment. There are species that, if are not controlled, lead to overpopulation and the resulting imbalance of their own livelihood. Our consumption is the equilibrium of this ecosystem. There is nothing wrong with this procedure. While we are humanoids, in the 3rd dimension, there is no place for theosophical hypocrisy in the development of intelligent communities in the universe. We are very far away from divinity, we must provide the necessary elements for our races to develop in equilibrium with nature placed at our disposal to be managed wisely. Zeta Reticuli asks, do you know about the Bible codes? If time travel is not possible, how can information about today and future events be mathematically encoded in a book that contains holographic data that is over 3,000 plus years old? Zeta, I already mentioned the missionaries of the fourth dimension that incarnate on the planet to bring knowledge. Well, the vision they have in the fourth dimension is much broader. One day you will have the opportunity to see. Names, dates, and specific events are defined with mathematical precision by the tendency of ethnicities involved. There is a detailed overview of everything that will tend to occur in the process of development. It is an extremely advanced technique of behavioral study. It's impossible for me to explain, because even I do not know this processing system details. If some very significant event were to happen or not occur, they know almost everything that should occur during the development of any colony, with thousands of years of prediction. If a particular knowledge is introduced in a given period, it can completely change the context of development and future of a colony. Any details entered can cause chain reactions, for better or for worse, so this perfect coordination of blue beings is extremely important to our colonies in the third dimension. There is information that, for more than goodwill that I have, it is impossible to convey to you in your current state of understanding and development. But I hope to make myself understood. It took 8,000 years for us to reach the level 1 and now after 12,000 years reached the level 5 of the third dimension. We started like you, with ethnicity compatible to ours, blending cultures and knowledge to date. The big difference is that the Community Galactica did not exist to help when we moved to level 1, when each planet was by itself. You are now passing the 3D basic level 0 for level 1, with some assistance, and may thereafter participate in the socialization with other humanoid societies from other galaxies in a short time.